Do you ever find yourself in a situation where time simply stops moving? Stops? It was a Tuesday. Typical. Halfway through preparing dinner, I was in the kitchen chopping onions. That hum of fatigue that comes from spending too much time at a desk and not getting enough sleep. I didn't check, but my son Milo was in his room working on his homework or perhaps playing video games. There was silence in the house. Too silent. My phone buzzed on the counter at that moment. I nearly disregarded it, but I reached for it for some reason. There is a slight itch in the back of my brain. Perhaps it was instinct. Or perhaps the one tremor seemed louder than it should have because of the quiet. An email was sent, from Elliot, my spouse. Subject: I apologize. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the email would reveal everything I believed to be true about my life. I took it open. What about the words? They were not merely painful. They exploded. I know this is abrupt, but I've moved on. I've met a younger person, and I feel like I'm living again, Lena said. I apologize, but I have to take care of myself. Additionally, the company loan? It's in your name. Please handle it. I'm confident you'll succeed. I won't be accessible for some time. As simple as that. He had left. No farewell to our son. I feel alive again is the only answer. Just gone. And me? Left with a damaged family, his mess, and a $30,000 loan. You can call me Lena Torres. My age is 38. Here's the tale of how my husband disappeared and how my 12-year-old kid saved my life. I had been with Elliot for 15 years, met while in college, fell deeply in love, and married young. Made a living off of used furniture and ramen noodles. We weren't flawless. Fights broke out. Debt. Dreams that never came to pass. However, I believed that we were a team. He had this vision 2 years ago, a remodeling company, said that it would help us escape the financial abyss we had been in. The issue was that he had terrible credit. Mine didn't. So I signed. I had faith in him. So I signed. Within ourselves. I was the only one who did, it turns out. I was unable to eat the night after reading that email, unable to think. The world became hazy. I recall holding to the kitchen counter as if the floor were about to disappear. Then came Milo's voice. Gentle. Concerned. Mom? Are you all right? You appear pallid. I made an effort to grin. I'm just exhausted, sweetie. His eyes were large and soulful as he scrutinized me. Is Dad's absence the reason? He has been absent a lot. I paused. He disappeared for a time. Milo gave a nod. Silently. As if he knew beforehand. Then he uttered something that chilled me to the bone. I believe he is seeing that woman. I gazed at him. What are you saying? A couple of weeks ago, he stated. On his phone, I noticed her name. It was accompanied with a heart. I was having trouble breathing. My own youngster had sensed a problem. He had also remained silent. Hoped it was nothing, probably. As I had. I apologize for not telling you, he said. No, my love. It's not your fault. He cast his gaze downward. I despise him. I was unable to argue. Since I kind of did too, the days that followed were a haze. I was hardly functioning when I got to work. The house was empty. Missed loan payments, past due invoices, and memories of a future someone else destroyed plagued me in my inbox. I gave Elliot a call, directly to voicemail, sent an email, no answer. Not even his brother was aware of his whereabouts. He mentioned taking off for a bit, was all that was stated. My body continued to move on the 6th day. But what about my soul? Somewhere in the corner, it was curled up. Then an odd thing occurred. I discovered Milo typing on my old laptop in his room. What do you have in progress? I inquired. Something was there when he looked up, fierce in his gaze, mending something. I laughed, hollow and exhausted. What am I fixing? He merely grinned. You'll see. Mom, don't worry. I'm looking after it. I didn't give it much thought. I ought to have. Because that choice would completely change everything a week later. It was a Friday. I was in the middle of a staff meeting at work when my phone chimed once more. Milo. His voice? Shaking. Can you come home, Mom? Please. The first made a mistake. It just went too far. Even if I didn't mean to. Without saying another thing, I left work. He was standing on the porch when I pulled into the driveway. Tempo. Anxious. Tiny. He sprinted over to the vehicle. This is not how I intended it to go. Milo, I continued, maintaining a calm tone. What's happening? He ushered me in. That's when I noticed the screen. Open on the coffee table is my laptop, a lengthy email exchange, alongside Elliot. From my account, I sent. I muttered, Milo, did you pose as me? He gave a nod. All I wanted was for him to respond. I informed him that the loan provider might call the police. They were looking into it, I said. I assumed he would panic and offer assistance. I gazed at the display, and there it was. An Elliot response, furious, defensive, accusing me of being dangerous. I would regret telling me this. Then there was another message, from a female. Tessa is her name, chilly, cruel. Tell me to get over this. That Elliot was now content, and that I was bitter. Guilt-filled eyes, Milo looked up. I introduced myself as your friend to her, that you were having problems, that the cops might become involved. Then everything fell apart, since Elliot didn't simply respond. He dialed. Milo then picked up. He recognized me, Milo remarked. He referred to me by name, claimed that I was brave. However, I was engaging in risky behavior. I took a seat. Hard. You are 12 years old, I muttered. This shouldn't have been your burden. His voice cracked as he looked down. Mom, you looked so broken. I was at a loss for what to do. I drew him into my embrace. No more secrets. No more acting like you're someone you're not. We do this collectively from now on. I meant it too, because treachery was no longer the only issue here. It was war. One didn't get any sleep that night. Not by any means. Tessa's smug message appeared every time I closed my eyes. I overheard Elliot making fun of my son over the phone, and I kept playing the final notice's bottom number, $27,438.75. There was more to it than ink on paper. A weight was pressed up on my chest, a clawed number. I could see Milo was still restless, even though he had gone to bed. The light was still on when his door broke open. I didn't stop him. How was I able to? He had now demonstrated that he was more intelligent, courageous, and grounded than the majority of adults I knew. I stopped attempting to sleep at around 2 in the morning. I sat in the dark at the kitchen table, curling my fingers around a chilly mug of tea that I had never had. Then I recalled what I had seen from Milo. The GPS tracker. I got my laptop open, entered the login credentials for our previous family locator app, and there it was, Elliot's phone, still ringing from Harborview, a tiny seaside hamlet. A few hours away. It's small, touristic, full of pastel cafes and expensive taffy stores. He remained there, alongside her. He had been out drinking lattes with a woman who advised me to try therapy as I was frantically trying to stretch grocery money and avoid collection calls. And something that had been asleep for too long woke up inside of me. Milo sat down to breakfast the following morning, spooning cereal as if nothing had changed. But as he watched me, his eyes darted up. He declared, I have an idea. I arched an eyebrow. Oh no. Now what? Half serious, half mischievous, he smiled. Do you recall how Dad exploited your credit to finance the company? What if we could demonstrate that he actually used it for personal purposes? I blinked. You believe we could? Perhaps if we visit Harborview, we might be able to prove something if we have pictures, receipts, card activity, or anything else. I gazed at him. He wasn't merely trying to make ends meet. He had a strategy. I also needed one. Dang it. For the first time in days, I said, all right, in a firm voice. In the morning we depart. We didn't bring much, only the necessities. A folder containing my laptop, chargers, and loan documentation. Like he was on his way to a stakeout, Milo tucked a notepad inside. I didn't even dispute it. We were on the road by 9 in the morning, the city disappearing in our wake. As we drove, the hum of the highway filled the quiet. Milo's expression made it clear to me that catching Elliot wasn't the only goal. It was about reclaiming something. When I looked at him, I knew that this was the kind of situation that would permanently mold him. Not the actual treachery, but the way we responded to it. Just after midday, we arrived at Harborview. I'll add that it was stunning, like something from a magazine about the coast. Shop windows with wind chimes, baskets of flowers dangle from each pole. I couldn't pronounce the names of the couples walking hand in hand while drinking iced coffee. I was only able to think, he brought her here. Milo tapped his phone's screen. He pointed to a cottage-style inn across the street and said, "He's staying at that B&B, shutters in a light blue color, hammocks in front. When you're not trying to hide from financial misdeeds, this is the type of location you go." We parked on the other side of the road. Observed. The door opened after 10 minutes, and there he was, Elliot, relaxed and tanned. As if he were in a tourism brochure, he wore sunglasses. By his side, Tessa, younger. More attractive? Perhaps. Definitely taller. He made a comment that made me laugh, as if she hadn't just destroyed 2 lives to reach her coastal paradise. I felt sick to my stomach. My knuckles turned white from the force of my hold on the driving wheel. "They appear content," I said. Milo remained silent. He tightened his jaw. They stared straight forward. After that, I decided. I reached for my phone. "What are you doing?" Milo inquired. "Taking a picture." I didn't let him stop me. Just one click. Proof. However, Elliot turned as soon as the shutter sounded. He noticed us. Our gazes met. His face contorted into something unintelligible, like rage or dread. I ducked. Milo muttered, "He saw us, Mom." I took another look. Elliot was making his way to the vehicle. Quick. My heart struck my ribs hard. I extended my hand to grasp Milo's. "Prepare yourself," I replied softly. "This is going to get serious." Before I even opened the door, he arrived at the car. I did not wait for him to knock. I went outside, stood erect. Milo remained in the car, watching everything that happened. Elliot's arms were folded. "Lena, what is this? Are you really following me around now?" I stated bluntly. "We need to talk. A bakery in front of it? Really?" "Oh, I apologize," I yelled. "Was your romantic retreat with the woman you left your family for interrupted by me?" He clenched his jaw. "Slow down your voice." "No," I responded, raising my voice. "You no longer have any control over anything." Now many were watching, inquisitive looks from adjacent tables. "Excellent. What are you looking for?" he hissed. I took out a piece of folded paper, gave it to him. He looked it over. His expression clouded. "This is the last notice," I declared. "The money you threw on me didn't go away." He sneered. "You agreed to it by signing." "We agreed," I retorted. "You claimed it was for our company, for us. And now you're spending it on brunch dates with her and hotel stays?" His face contorted. I wasn't finished. "I have evidence. Receipts, stopped pictures. Elliot, you're not invisible. You are simply irresponsible." At that moment, Tessa emerged from the cafe with 2 iced coffees in her hands. When she spotted me, she froze. Her voice was like ice as she said, "You must be the wife." With steely composure, I turned to her. "And my son must have had to mature too quickly because of you." She gave an eye roll. "Oh, please." Elliot confided in me about his misery. Slowly and dangerously, I smiled. "Before he fled, did he also tell you that he had depleted our savings account? That he left his mess to be cleaned up by his 12-year-old? That he did all of this under my name?" I raised my phone. The transaction list was opened. Highlighted the reservation for this same inn, which was debited to my credit card. "Congratulations. You're drinking coffee on my dime," I remarked. Her jaw dropped. However, there was no sound. Elliot took a step forward. "Speak quietly. You wouldn't approach the police. You are not that." I gave him a stern look. "You no longer recognize me." He chuckled. "And your tiny companion is also assisting?" Milo exited the vehicle at that point. Walked directly at us. "Be calm. Concentrated." I took a little folder from him. He claimed to have organized everything. "In case we require legal assistance." Elliot blinked. "Are you serious?" Tessa stepped back. "Wait, what is his age?" Milo gave her a stern look. "Enough to understand that stealing is wrong." Quiet. There was nothing but the ocean in the distance, roaring like cheers. I reached into the folder and took out another document. A letter of demand. "Elliot, this is your chance. Repay it. Wire every penny. Or, in 72 hours, I go to the police, with everything." He parted his lips. I interrupted him. "We've had enough of being nice." I pivoted. Walked off. Milo at my side. We didn't turn around. And I swear, I felt lighter right then. Not because it was finished. However, we eventually quit running. We didn't talk as we drove home. Across the roadway, the sun was low and dripping gold. Outside, everything appeared quiet and serene, but within me, a tempest was brewing. I played back every word that was said throughout the altercation, each movement of Elliot's face. Each time Tessa spoke, she demonstrated that she understood exactly what she was doing. Milo was sitting next to me, gazing out the window. Keep quiet. Not numb, though. His quietness was acrid, concentrated. We had maintained our position. However, we both understood that this was not the end. 2 days went by. No phone calls. No cash. Nothing but quiet. I checked the bank account every morning, expecting, perhaps foolishly, that Elliot would show me how wrong I was. That someplace, beneath the rubble of his former self, a semblance of morality remained. However, the equilibrium remained unchanged, empty. My phone rang on the third morning as I was printing out the paperwork to take to the police. Unknown figure. I was unwilling to respond. However, I did. Please, Lena, don't end the call. Elliot was the one. He had a distinct voice, out of breath, worried, as if the floor had been torn out from under him. I'm having problems, he declared. I had no idea who else I should call. I said nothing at all. He spoke quickly, as if he would collapse if he paused for even a moment. A visitor arrived at the B&B. They were from the bank, I believe. They had pictures. Inquired about a camper I purchased the previous year. Declared it to be in your name. I suppose they realized I was lying when I told them I didn't know anything. He hesitated. I remained silent. With a flat voice, I responded, So now you call me. At last, the mess you left behind has made its way to your feet. Lena, you don't understand. He growled. I might end up in jail if they report this as fraud. It nearly made me chuckle. Your family is already gone. Your child. Your name. And you're afraid now? This is not how I intended it to go. Yes? I yelled. I didn't either. Then he said it. Keep quiet. Broken. I apologize. It was the first time. Still, it had little significance. He continued. Claimed he didn't know how to put things right and wasn't phoning to do so. Cited Tessa's departure that morning. Packed her belongings. Took the vehicle. Took the remaining funds. He said. She called me a sinking ship. I shut my eyes. She then leaped. And here he was now. By themselves, broke. In a corner. Requesting assistance from the woman he deceived to get out. You wish to correct it? I inquired. Then accept accountability. Put your signature on the documents. Make your payment. Speak with the bank. Work together. He didn't answer. Because I'm going to the police today if you don't, I continued. And you'll be fortunate if they merely charge you with fraud. I'd rather not end up in jail. So quit behaving like a criminal. I then hung up. Don't cry. Don't shake. Just silence. Milo was writing his arithmetic homework at the kitchen table when he looked up. That father? I gave a nod. Now he's afraid. Milo's head cocked. Well done. I grinned as well. Not because I was seeking retribution, but because he was the one bearing the burden for once. I received an email that evening. The subject is agreed. The payment agreement had been signed by Elliot. $600 per month was promised, offered to turn the camper over. I pathetically asked if I could wait a few weeks before formally filing anything. I didn't respond, but the following morning, I sent it all to my lawyer. She went over everything, claimed that we had sufficient evidence of credit abuse, financial abuse, and illicit transactions to support our demand for a complete debt transfer. She stated, it's a strong case. And really, he's fortunate that we're just doing this. I had an odd feeling for the first time in weeks. Not tranquility. However, it is possible. As if this inferno had a back entrance, just in case. Then Milo entered the space. Mom? He had a letter in his hand, an actual one. Not via email, not an SMS message. It was a simple white envelope. He said, it arrived in the mail. I assumed it was another bill. I accepted it. I opened it. The ground then moved under me once more. One more loan, under my name, $22,000. 5 months ago it opened. I went cold. Go over it once more. There was a discrepancy in the account number. The loan was not the same. It has nothing to do with the remodeling company. It was fresh. I also didn't sign for it. I had trembling hands. Once more, he did it. After everything, following the tears, the phone call, the assurances, the I'm sorry, he had already left when he took out another loan, while I was drowning with Milo. Without blinking, he lit another fire behind us and left. I took a seat. Hard. I'm still holding the paper. Milo sat next to me. He remained silent. This time, however, his stillness was different. Pain wasn't the only thing. It was rage. That's all, I muttered. He gave a nod. Now that we have evidence, correct? 2 loans. In your name, both. One following his departure. This goes beyond simple treachery, I remarked carefully. It is illegal. I entered the police station early the following morning. Don't cry. Definitely. I packed everything .emails, .loan records, .screenshots, GPS records, .statements from credit cards, .dangers. The updated loan announcement. I explained everything. I was honest. The detective leaned back once I was done and said something I didn't even realize I needed to hear. This appears to be a blatant instance of financial fraud and identity theft. We are initiating a formal inquiry. I sat still, but I was collapsing on the inside because I was finally believed by someone. The phone called once more 3 weeks later. It wasn't Elliot this time. The detective was the one. He spoke just enough, nothing more. We have him under arrest. Your evidence was more than sufficient. He came clean when being questioned. With my phone to my ear, I stood in the center of my kitchen and gazed out the window to the small park on the other side of the street. Children were having fun. Tree-dwelling birds. Life simply continued on its way. But within me, something seems to have halted. Not out of fear. Not in agony. Nothing but silence. As if the battle that had been raging for weeks behind my ribs had finally taken a seat and taken a breath. At an ATM, they apprehended him, making an attempt to withdraw money from an account connected to the second illegal loan. They said he seemed anxious, agitated. His account was untrue. The GPS logs, the credit card transactions, and the forged signatures all pointed to him. He was charged with financial fraud, identity theft, and financial manipulation to abuse his wife. That final one really got to me, because it was just that, not merely treachery, not simply falsehoods, mistreatment. That aspect isn't discussed enough. Milo initially remained silent when I told him. He remained still. Finally, he inquired, "Will he be sent to jail?" I told the detective what he had stated. The court will decide that. However, it's probably Milo gave one nod. Not with happiness. Not in retaliation. Just understanding. As if he was aware that something significant had changed. That the man who had harmed us was no longer merely being sought after. They caught him. After a month, we appeared in court. I had on a fresh blouse. No cosmetics. The hair was pulled back. I wasn't there to make an impression. To be seen, I was there. On the other side of the room, Elliot appeared, diminutive, not in a physical sense, but on an emotional level. He had lost all of his charm, self-assurance, and smugness. He was unable to meet my gaze. The charges were read by the judge. Listened to the proof. As a precaution, Milo sat next to me with a folder containing all of the documents we had collected. Be calm, concentrated, powerful. The judge's decision was complete reimbursement. Both loans must be fully repaid. Covered are all credit card charges. Every month, his wages were garnished, resuming child support. County imprisonment for 60 days, 18 months of probation. It wasn't all of it. However, it was sufficient. Enough to show that I wasn't insane. Tell Milo enough that you were correct to fight. Enough to let the world know that we were important. We didn't go celebrate after court. We didn't publish anything on the internet. No selfies of triumph. No montages of retaliation. Together, we simply stepped outside into the sunlight. Free. Rebuilding took time. However, we did. Slowly. That initial loan? Canceled in light of the fraud decision. The second one? After the investigation, the lender closed and granted forgiveness. My credit? Still getting better. Better, though. Healthier. At work, one received a promotion. Nothing ostentatious. Just respect, a small raise, and more consistent hours. We relocated to a new location. Yes, smaller, but tidy. Ours. Keep quiet. What about Milo? He evolved. He sharpened. Kinder. More concentrated. He began a small blog, simply for himself and his ideas. Tales about justice, children's courage, and speaking up. According to his teacher, he had changed. I wasn't shocked. Despite having passed through fire, he remained kind-hearted. We were dining on the couch one evening right before bed. Rice, eggs, and some leftover grilled vegetables, something basic. "Are you happy, Mom?" Milo asked me as he looked up. I stopped. I considered everything. The emails, the terror, traveling to Harborview by automobile, the courtroom. Then I grinned. "I'm making progress." He gave a nod. "Me too. Because of this tale, it has nothing to do with what Elliot stole from us. It has to do with what we discovered within ourselves. It's about what Milo discovered when the man who ought to have taught him how to be strong ended up being the one who made him strong. It's about how you still have the power to choose your own path in life, even when those who are meant to protect you end up hurting you the most. The truth is at issue, together with grit, and making the decision to get up even if your legs still feel like glass." I believed we were finally able to breathe. There was another envelope. It was a Sunday, late in the morning. Outside, the sky was that ideal early spring blue. Watering the small basil plant he had saved from the grocery clearance section, Milo was on the balcony. Then I noticed it inside the mailbox. Not a warning. One more white envelope. It has my name on it. There on the porch, I opened it, and I exhaled the air. A third loan. Not an error. This letter isn't spam. Actual. In my name, another account. 3 months ago, it opened. Elliot, however, was already being investigated. $18,500. Silently, I entered. Milo looked over. He didn't ask any questions after noticing the expression on my face. He did nothing except wait. I gave the paper to him. He raised his eyebrows, then lowered them, and we just stood there for a few seconds. Not upset, not in a panic, simply still. Because eventually, that's what treachery does. You are no longer shocked by it. It begins to instruct you. I gave my lawyer a call. I sent it all. We returned to the police station 2 days later. More documentation, additional statements, more information piled up like bricks in a wall I no longer feared to construct. The detective blinked hardly at all. He remarked, "It seems like he never stopped, even after being apprehended. The charges quadrupled this time. He was brought up once more, this time without any prior notice, no plea bargains, and no opportunity to flee. There was a second court date set. And now, the judge didn't mince words. 4 months in prison, probation for 3 years, long-term financial limitations, counseling mandated by the court for deception and manipulation. And I experienced something more profound than rage for the first time since that email, the one that set everything in motion. I was satisfied. Then things became quieter. Not right away. Slowly, though. It fades gradually, like a storm that doesn't go away all at once, until you realize one day that you can hear the wind without flinching. The bogus accounts were closed by the banks. The loans vanished from my file. One line at a time, my credit improved. Under a different name, I opened a tiny savings account. I was the only one who touched it. Milo? He continued to write. People discovered his blog, and it grew. He received emails from strangers expressing gratitude for his voice, guts, and honesty. He never mentioned Elliot by name in his writing. However, you sensed that every word was true. And Dad said something I will never forget one evening as we were making our way home from the shop, bags in hand, the air crisp and chilly. "You know what I discovered from all of this, Mom?" he continued. I gave him a quick look. "What? You are not weak because of that pain. It merely highlights your areas of strength." I remained silent. I was unable to. I simply extended my arm to grasp his hand. "Therefore, no, this is not the type of tale that has a happy ending. The bow isn't neat. No slick Hollywood retaliation. However, there is recovery. There is the silent triumph of knowing you are at ease when you wake up in the morning. The strength that comes from not being silenced is one of them. And then there is the strength of a 12-year-old child who said, 'Let's fix this, together,' after seeing the mess someone else had made. Elliot attempted to set everything on fire, but from the ashes, we created something better. This isn't a tale about our losses. It tells the tale of what we couldn't let go of. Our voice, our value, our future. And that, nobody is able to steal that.